a child at the school, his daughter, he told me. And he goes, "Hey, man, what's your director of content got coming up on the show today?"
Well, that would be all three of our brains.
I said, "Oh, man, you do listen." We don't have a director of math.
Yeah.
Could you do it?
No.
No?
What?
Definitely not.
Oh, man, you won't help the old guys out.
Not many people go into a career of talking if they're good at math, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Good point.
And there are times where it's just simple, and I've just botched it.
Oh, my God. It's so bad.
It's like, well, I mean, he had 100 yards a game for 3 games, so he's averaging, what's that, like 87? I mean, I've just completely botched it.
Everybody looks at each other. Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Well, that's why we open it up
87.
for all the fans to help us out. Because we know our weaknesses. At least we can identify our weaknesses. And that's a start right there.
Well, there you
help
go.
us out. What's the numbers? You will get immediate answers. Whatever form you want to get them in, we'll get them. So I'm not worried about that.
There's nothing we can't ask, though, that doesn't get immediately solved on Twitter. That, to me, because somebody asked me, what's the coolest thing about your job? And I said, oh, my gosh, there's everything. I said, I'll tell you, though, here's probably the coolest thing. Because we're talking, and the Zone family is so big, and there's so many people that listen. By the way, thank you that you would listen to us.
Thanks for helping us continue to do our job.
That's right. And Lonzo, who's in his own TV chat, says, hey, Blaine and Mickey and Lucas. Hey, Lonzo, everybody, Lonzo and all of y'all. If there's anything we ever don't know, we can just say, well, somebody tweet us that. And immediately, like 7 people tweet us the answer. To have
we aren't the guys that know all.
No.
That's for sure. We're regular Joe Blows.
But to have a research department who hangs out with us every day, and between all of you, you literally know the answer to everything. Yeah. It's pretty unbeatable.
Yeah. If not, then we'll just have Lucas Google it.
We stall while Lucas Googles.
Yeah, he's got fast fingers.
All right, so here's my math. Derrick Henry averages 29 points.
So we're going to try to attempt this math?
No, I got it. I double-checked it. I set my truck before I came in.
Buying time, though.
No, I did it 4 times.
4 times?
Yeah, because I wasn't about to come on here and get this wrong.
Everyone that's listening, make sure I got so much slobber in my mouth from laughing. If you get this wrong, everyone, please tweet us and tell us if Mickey got this right. I don't care what your calculator. You might have put it in wrong in calculator.
29.625 carries per game.
That's what Derrick Henry
touches. So that includes catches.
All right, don't clarify.
Catches and rushes.
Okay.
They got 30 touches to divide up between the rest of the team. And like you said, nobody's panicked down there. They're pros. They're saying, what's my opportunity here to do the next best thing to help this team win games? Somebody's going to get the ball. So Derrick Henry is gone, right? And Dave, we'll get to Dave on the phone in just a minute. So Deontay Foreman is here, and Adrian Peterson's here, and Jeremy McNichols, who was already the third down guy. They'll get some piece of that, but that's also just 30 plays on offense. So does that mean more targets for this guy or that guy or Ferkser? It just means there's a whole lot more opportunities for everybody on the offensive side of the ball. It's crazy. That's 30 because he got it so many times a game.
Well, you got to think half of those at least are going to go to the running back.
Yeah.
Because those are running plays.
Yep.
Or probably even more than that and be divided amongst those 3 gentlemen that we mentioned. But, athletes, as I said before, and they have actually said exactly the same things I said on Sunday, Monday, the coaching staff, Vrabel, everybody, because that's the mindset of professional athletes. You know how many guys are sitting there saying, oh, man, I love this challenge. They hate that Henry's hurt, but they love the challenge. Okay, now I get an opportunity. I get an opportunity to showcase what I can do. Whether you're AP, coming back, being an old guy, haven't been on a roster. Nobody believes that I can still do it at 36. McNichols, I've been a journeyman type player. I'm just a third down guy. Now let's see if I get some more carries so I can actually tote the rock. I mean, we can go Foreman, who come off the street, and I showed you last year that I'm capable. All these guys will be motivated. And guess what? That offensive line, which I said is the most important piece, we just got to make sure they stay healthy. Because the running game is going to do what it always does. And they're not going to, change. They're not going to change probably 90% of the offense. They're not going to change it.
Yeah.
They're not.
And I think somebody.
That's hard to do, first of all, at this level. I mean, you can't scrap it unless you're just going to throw it around the yard.
I think people just if you're just this diehard Titans fan and you love Derrick Henry, I think that's probably hard for people to believe. Like, no, they're just going to have to throw it 60 times. They're never going to do that.
No.
And Vrabel even said, we're not going to throw it 45 times a game. They're not going to do it. They're going to keep doing the best version they can of what they do. And they have the most rushing attempts in the league, the Titans do. That's who they are.
Right. Well, I gave the example yesterday.
Yeah.
If someone at your job who has a significant role is missing, they're off for sick leave, get what everybody else have to do. Pick up the scraps, and everybody got to pick up their game and hold the fort till he or she arrives back from being sick. That's the same mentality. So fans, don't panic. There's no panic at all. You know, I sometimes I think people always are thinking as though I think. Well, there is no panic. I gave an example when Steve McNair was injured, didn't even start our Super Bowl season off as unhealthy, and Neil O'Donnell started for what, 5 games? Yeah, you thought we panicked? No, I don't think so. And what was our record during that time? 4-1.
4-1. Yeah, I remember that. I didn't have to look up.
You knew that one. Yeah, you informed me because I definitely know. Yeah, it's funny how I kind of forget when I'm playing what was going on because you're so much in a bubble. You really are. As a player, you're so focused. And now, they didn't have social media during my time, so it wasn't like you can get information just randomly, just scrolling on, Twitter. So you're so in your bubble. You're so much concentrated on your task at hand and game planning, and you're all football. And if you're, your free time, you're probably spending with your family and friends.
Right.
So they may tell you a lot of information that's on Sports Center or what have you at that time. But now you have social media. So it was kind of interesting listening to Elijah Molden, hear him talk and say, well, I don't too much watch Sports Center. That wasn't odd to me. To a lot of people, it would be in the sports industry. Like, dang, man, an athlete, he not even watching. He doesn't have time. When he does have time, he's taking a break mentally and physically. Like, let me sit back, relax. Maybe I'll watch a movie. Maybe I'll spend time with my family. Whatever it may be, some of the things that he likes to do outside of, football. Mm-hmm. So that's not uncommon.
Let's get Dave has just checked in this first segment on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Wants to talk a little Derrick Henry and Titans. What's going on, Dave, in Mount Juliet? Thanks for calling.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing today?
Great.
We're doing awesome, man. Beautiful day. Happy Thursday.
It is that, isn't it?
Yes,
hey, I was just wondering. I didn't hear. I've been on and off the radio today. Is Derrick Henry's surgery, was it good? How's his recovery time? And maybe we can see now we might ought to block a little better and see what y'all think.
Well, I don't know if the blocking had anything to do with the King's foot there. There was a report yesterday. Diana Rossini was the first one to report it, and Lucas found that and sent it to Blaine and me, and it essentially said the surgery was a success and, the rehab starts now. And I always laugh because there's never a tweet from some reporter like, the surgery went terrible. This was, no doctor ever finishes up and goes, whoa, left my watch in there. Screwed that one up.
I left my watch in there.
There was a tweet yesterday that the surgery just went great, which everybody says after every surgery. Yeah, I bombed that.
Yeah.
Terrible
really
surgery.
He left his gauze in there.
Completely screwed that up. Yeah, there's a suture.
As far as recovery time, no, they gave a broad window, but nobody really knows at this time. They say 6 to 10 weeks. It could be longer. It could be shorter. We don't know until he starts getting out there running. So you got far away from that time yet. He's probably still on crutches or in a boot at this point in time because you want it to heal correctly. So we shall see when it gets closer to that time and him hitting the field and maybe running around. That's, at least 6 weeks away.
He obviously stays off the foot, but you can still do cardio. They'll find things for him to do, right, workout wise to keep.
Not immediately.
No.
Eventually, you can get in the pool. They have treadmills in water. Yeah. So you running, and that's called non-weight bearing. The water holds you up. I rehabbed when I had a Liz Frank injury. That's what I rehabbed on. And you feel like you believe actually that you can run for real on the ground. You're like, oh man, this is nothing. They go, no, the water's holding you up. I said, I'm running on this treadmill, and then they got a camera in the water, and you can see it, and they video it the whole way through. Yeah, so you can see actually yourself running.
People hear Liz Frank injury, and I don't think a lot of people even know what it is, but they just know athletes
It's the top
get
of your
it.
foot. Yeah, it's still a foot injury, nothing to the extent of where it was actually worse than what Henry had.
Did that hurt to walk around on or to run on the
No.
Liz Frank injury?
No, what happens is the Liz Frank injury that I had, I thought I could actually walk and run because it didn't hurt. It wasn't a lot of swelling.
Right.
Until I got out there and start running and cutting, and I go, I can't do that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's what happened. His is a little different, instantly. When you have, yeah. So so his is a little bit different. But the Liz Frank, either you tear it all the way or you fracture it. I have fractured mine, so you can let it heal or go put a screw in it. I decided to let it heal and no screw.
And it did?
Yeah, but it took a long time.
Ooh.
Took a long time because I kept starting and stopping. And I should have just said, wear a boot for 6 weeks. Don't do anything. I could not. I thought I could continue to get back into play because as soon as I take the boot off, I go, man, there's nothing wrong with my foot.
Yeah.
I can go. Yeah, I can go for 2 days. And then after that, nope, right back to where I started.
We got to get right back to where we started, which is the segment of this show that comes next. David Boclair is going to join us. And Bokey covers the Titans for Sports Illustrated. Lots to get to. Titans back on the practice field today. We'll talk to the man who has been out there to see it. David Boclair next, right here on Blaine and Mickey.
Stream every Titans game on the 104.5 The Zone app and at 1045thezone.com.
Halfway point of the NFL season. Well, it's yesterday a long list of did not practices for the Titans, and certainly this is some stuff we can discuss with David. Kari Blasingame, Nate Davis, Rashawn Evans, Chris Jackson, Greg Maben, Big Jeff, and limited. There were a bunch of guys who were limited, including among them Bud Dupree and Julio Jones, but they did practice in some capacity. But seeing Chris Jackson and Greg Maben both injured, especially with the Rams in the dang, looking ahead at the Rams and knowing how much they like to chuck it around. Now, they run it too. But, boy, that's a Cooper Kupp.
Well, let's start on the offense first. Nate Davis down, so who goes in for him? I know Brewer maybe possibly moved up off. I think he's on IR, right?
He's in the 21-day.
So they can move him up,
they can move him
or
up.
they can go with your guy, Dylan Radins, right?
Yep.
Because you're trying to run the football. That's still part of your MO, and that's
you
your
are.
identity. Mm-hmm. And then the Maben and Chris Jackson, as you mentioned, for all the throwing that the Rams do with Stafford, who quietly is having a MVP year with all that talent.
I looked. Think about this, because Matthew Stafford goes to Lions, and people are like, "Oh, he's been in Detroit." This is the best year he's ever had, statistically. Even he's on pace. Now, he had 1 year he threw for like 5,000 yards, but his completion percentage is 68.9%. It's his best ever. It's the highest quarterback rating he's ever had. He's 22 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and he's only been sacked 7 times.
Yeah, they protect him. He has a great feel for the pocket presence, and maneuvering in there. He's got a rocket arm. He can throw from every launch angle. He's really talented. I remember watching him at Georgia. He's a super talented player. Only question anyone should have about Stafford is if he can win a playoff game or a big game and see how he plays under, this big spotlight. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only knock they had against him in Detroit. The guy was super talented. He carried the team pretty much most of the time. He didn't make the playoffs very often, but if he did, he never won a game. And it seemed like he always just played okay or not so good.
Yeah.
So that's what people want to see. With other pieces around him that are really good, I don't know if that's going to be the case. We shall see. But if the Titans front four, hearing Big Jeff's name on there, hopefully that was just from some rest. I remember he did sprain his ankle or something to the effect in that Colts game. He did finish, but when you're a big man, I told you that's like stubbing your toe in your elephant.
Yep. That
thing can put you down because you got a lot of weight you running around with now. So, he's a phenomenal athlete at that size. So I want to see him healthy. So I don't care if he doesn't practice all the way to Friday and just does his walkthrough. As long as he's there on Sunday night, we good.
We're good to go. David Boclair, we're good to go with him. We got him on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Bokey, interesting week. Anytime the team that you cover just happens to bring a Hall of Famer and put him on the practice squad.
Yeah, give John Robinson and his staff credit, right? I mean, you're not going to replace Derrick Henry in this offense and what he has done the last couple of years, but I guess the best way to give it a shot, at least to replace some of that, is to go get the only other active player on the planet who's ever rushed for 2,000 yards in a season, right? And I think just interjecting a guy of that magnitude and with that kind of name recognition just has to add some juice to the room and sort of help everybody get past the sort of disappointment that I'm sure they were feeling on Monday and Tuesday.
Absolutely. The other guy they brought back, David, we were talking about this on Sunday on the postgame show. We saw Derrick maybe didn't look like himself and sort of got into discussion because at that time nobody knew how bad the injury was. Why did they got to bring somebody in? And we were talking about Deontay Foreman. He had a nice little 6-game run for the team, and they're giving him a look as well. And I would imagine he can come in, he'll know the system, and that dude will be ready to contribute also, hopefully.
Yeah, Todd Downing talked about Foreman today, and sort of interjected Foreman into some of his answers to questions about Adrian Peterson. It sort of felt like he's excited about Foreman and said, the terminology that he was involved with Atlanta during the preseason under Arthur Smith is the same things that they have in their playbook here. Like that, it's not like Arthur rewrote his terminology down there. So he certainly is a guy who can step in and do more than just the the basic running plays that everybody has in their playbooks right now. He should have a good sense of things. And a guy who was a terrific player in college. Was kind of out of shape, had some issues early in his NFL career, but has sort of got himself pointed in the right direction. And this could be an opportunity for him to really get something out of an NFL career that looked like it was going to be a big bust early on.
I'm sure Titans fans sure hope so. David Boclair, our guest at Boclair Sports on Twitter, sportsillustrated.com, covering the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, Bokey, thanks for coming on. And, Foreman, I really like what he did last year. He showed glimpses of that he could be a pretty solid backup to the King. I'll be interested to see, do you think there's a possibility that he starts over AP just because of his knowledge, as you mentioned, of the playbook?
I don't think so, Blaine. I mean, I don't think you bring Adrian Peterson in to ease him into things and whatnot. And we've seen it with this team. You look a couple weeks ago, they plucked Greg Maben off the Cardinals practice squad, plug him right into the starting lineup, and he plays against the Kansas City Chiefs and contributes to the Chiefs not scoring a touchdown, right? And we've seen that a lot of times with this team under Mike Vrabel and this coaching staff. I think if you make that move with Adrian Peterson, you make that move because this is a guy who can give you some juice and can give you sort of at least some of the things Derrick Henry gave you in the offense. And I think Foreman, it's tough for me to decide right now if Foreman is a complementary piece to Adrian Peterson or if he's there more in case it doesn't work out with Peterson, because obviously at 36 years old, didn't put up big numbers last year, hadn't been with the team at all this year. I mean, there's no guarantees that this is going to be a great move for the Titans. So Foreman might be there just as a backup, but I don't think there's any doubt that Adrian Peterson is sort of the first and second down back Sunday against the Rams.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that, just based off his history and what he even did last year as far as AP. The reason I said Foreman is because of his familiarity. You name Maben, he was familiar with the system. Sometimes that can become an issue in a game, especially when you're on the road and it gets loud and he can't hear a check and he's not real in tune to all the checks anyway because he just got here. So that's why I say, does Foreman play a little bit more? You're probably right, because AP looks like he's going to be in shape and ready to rock and roll. I don't know how quickly he can pick up the system. It's not like it's super hard, but at the same time, it also can provide problems because of the noise and checks.
And I don't think it's far-fetched either to think that both of those guys get a handful of carries. I mean, Adrian Peterson, I say you don't bring him in to ease him into things, but he's also not going to get 28 or 30 carries Sunday, right? I mean, if there are 25 carries to be had, maybe he gets 15, maybe Deontay Foreman gets 8, maybe Jeremy McNichols gets 2. You do something like that, but I think and maybe with Foreman it is some of the plays that are deeper in the playbook. I would assume with Peterson it'll be all the basic zone runs that pretty much any running back would know about, and it's going to be it's funny, you talk about a Sunday night primetime showcase and NBC executives are probably just pulling their hair out with disappointment over not having Derrick Henry on the field to talk about him all night. But from a Titans fan's perspective, I think this is there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of drama here to see how this thing plays out and what this game says about maybe what's to come over the next several weeks with this offense.
No question about it. We went with David Boclair. I guess, David, what have you seen out of the offense, even though the King is down now, and the defense that has looked the same or different than last season?
Well, A.J. Brown finally looks like A.J. Brown, right? I think that's I think that's the really good news for the Titans and for Titans fans. And this is going to be an interesting time for him too. He's going to find out what it's really like to be a number one receiver in the NFL right now. I think he's going to get the DeAndre Hopkins treatment, the Devontae Adams treatment. Anybody in that class that you can name. That's probably how defenses are going to attack the Titans now and do their best to try limit what AJ Brown does. I think the biggest difference you see, or at least that I've noticed, is that this team has not come close to replacing Jonnu Smith and what he did for this offense last year, and the many ways they used him. Anthony Ferkser got off to a rough start with the knee injury, and maybe he's still dealing with some of that. But we've seen very little other than the one touchdown drive in the second quarter against the Colts on Sunday. We've gotten very little out of the tight ends that I think that's an area that maybe coaches can exploit going forward, kind of working against tendencies right now. And without Derrick Henry out there, for example, you could use you could line up in a 2 tight end set, suggest that you're going to run, and then maybe motion Ferkser out into the slot. Ferkser did a lot of things from the slot in 2019 when guys were injured and did some good work out there. So I think there's a real opportunity for a guy like him in those sort of situations to maybe start seeing the ball come his way a little bit more.
Sticking with A.J. Brown, the star-like treatment, do you think, or how do you think these guys match up with Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Brown? Both of them really physical players at their positions.
Yeah, and the Rams could be the exception, right? Because they have Jalen Ramsey who can go cover anybody on the planet one-on-one, and that's I would expect a personal foul penalty or two from both of those guys in this game. It's going to get heated. AJ's a guy who doesn't play angry. He plays happy, right? He's a guy who has fun out there, it seems like, all the time. And whereas Ramsey seems like one of those guys who kind of plays angry and wants to try and get you off your game. And as much as the physical matchup is going to be a challenge for AJ Brown, I think the mental matchup is going to be equally challenging because Jalen Ramsey will test him that way.
Were you surprised that the Titans didn't make a trade, or you was expecting no trade?
I'm not surprised that they didn't make a trade. It's a hard thing to do, and then the way things went with Henry getting injured the day before, and you had to address that, and probably I think they did as good as they could do in terms of addressing that when you add an Adrian Peterson and a guy who knows a little bit about your offense, and D'Onta Foreman, and Foreman's a little bit of a bigger guy too. Maybe he's the short yardage back, or the goal, and the goal line back too. I think there was a lot going on there to try and worry about putting a deal together as the deadline approached too.
Well, with David Boclair with SI.com.
I was looking at the injury report yesterday. Haven't seen anything yet today, but Kari Blasingame, obviously running back / fullback depth. Nate Davis is on there. There's a starter. Rashawn Evans is on there. There's a starter. Then I got super nervous because they don't have a lot of D-backs already, and Chris Jackson, Greg Maben both on there. And Big Jeff didn't practice. That was the DNP list. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole lot of manpower right there that you would really like to see suit up in Los Angeles on Sunday night.
Yeah, the cornerbacks were the first thing that caught my attention yesterday when that list came out. And you're talking about there's 5 cornerbacks on the active roster right now, and you're already down in your organizational depth because Christian Fulton is still on IR, Caleb Farley's out for the year, and here we go. Now maybe you have to go a little farther down. There's 2 guys on the practice squad right now who could come up and step in there, but that's a situation that really bears watching. And then today I'm curious to see too, because we were supposed to talk to Bud Dupree before practice, and Bud never made it out. We were told he was getting treatment, so I'm doubtful. I guess that Bud's gonna be doing much of anything today at all either, and maybe he's going to be questionable again for another game. So this team does a remarkable job at dealing with injuries under Mike Vrabel and this staff, but better than I've ever seen. And this year has certainly tested them in that regard. And I don't think this game's going to be any exception in that way.
Well, and Bokey, we've kind of watched the rookie class from the last couple of years, and obviously there hasn't been much to see until they just have to play them. Till other people get banged up, whether it's Molden or Farley, or it could be Dylan Radin's turn. Like, hey man, you're starting this week. If Nate Davis can't go, then the Radin's era could begin at guard.
Yeah, and if you've watched, Radins has gotten in there the last couple games. He finished the game Sunday against the Colts. The week before against the Chiefs, he got time replacing both Saffold and Nate Davis at both guard positions. And the one thing that stands out is he has a long way to go in pass protection right now. Like he gave up a sack Sunday that where he just plain whiffed on the guy. And if I'm the Rams and I'm Aaron Donald and I'm seeing that Nate Davis is not on the injury report, is not practicing, and there's a good chance that he's not going to play, then I would think Aaron Donald is salivating at the possibility of teaching Dylan Radin a thing or two about the NFL on Sunday night.
David, yes, Aaron Donald. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
the biggest, baddest dude there is. Welcome to the NFL, Dylan Radin. Welcome to starting. David, maybe we'll see. David Boclair, our guest.
Well, David, now that the fan base is starting to calm down that the King is not playing, I guess, what is your prediction, bold prediction, let's say, the next 9 weeks? I mean, because they could still go 5-4, win 11 games and get into the playoffs. But how do you think this team is going to ride out these next, 9 games?
Yeah, I think it's, they'll be fine. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to be competitive all the way through. They might have another clunker like they had against the Jets because they are going to be sort of redefining themselves a little bit. The one thing with Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry made the Titans different, right? Now they're just a good team the way a lot of other teams in the AFC right now are good.
They feared
teams.
him. They feared him, Bokey. People feared him.
Yeah. I mean, because he he is what made them different, and we've seen it. Those of us who do what we do, and the fans who have watched this team for every Sunday for years now, like you saw the impact of Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter on teams. You don't have that now. And how many times has this team come back in the fourth quarter or won games on the last drive and whatnot? How much exactly did Henry figure into that? You can't put a number on it, but he figured prominently in all that. So this team's going to have to find a different way to win games probably right now, and that means they're going to lose one or two that you might think that they shouldn't lose, but I still expect them to win the division, be in the playoffs, and their charge now is to figure out how they can be playoff ready and what the identity of this team is offensively going into the playoffs, so that they are confident in how they're going to win games at that time of year.
No doubt. I guess lastly for me, I just saw the Texans released Hargraves, the cornerback there, and it seems like it's kind of becoming a norm after trade deadline. So I'm trying to get the motives from both sides, from a team's perspective, why you release a guy that you got to guarantee his contract, you got to pay him. And also from a player's point of view, did he request to get off or was he unhappy? This guy, he was starting. You may not like the way he was playing, but he was starting. So it seems to be a trend now going to the league. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's one of two things. Either the guy wasn't happy and coaches decided they'd just rather not have him around, or he's a really good guy, a guy who's given a lot to the organization. You tried to trade him, you couldn't get anything for him. So as miserable as the situation in Houston is, you cut him and you say good luck. Hopefully somebody else will pick you up. If not immediately, then when they have an injury issue and they need a proven veteran to plug in there. I don't know the situation down there to say which one it is, but I would imagine it's one of those two things.
Well, with David Boclair, SI.com.
David, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much today, and look forward to catching up with you again at Boclair Sports on Twitter, Titans coverage at SI.com. Thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure, boys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Yes,
Bokey.
sir. One of the OGs of Nashville media right there, David Boclair. Always great to catch up with him. Got phone lines open. Anything you want to talk about? 615-737-1045. You want to jump in the mix? We got a question up on Blaine and Mickey Twitter, and it was interesting hearing David's perspective on this, but which running back gets the most carries on Sunday? Is it Jeremy McNichols? Is it Adrian Peterson? Is it Deontay Foreman? We'll share those results with you. Also, Todd Downing, speaking earlier today, talked about how Peterson and Foreman fit into this Titans offense. We'll have some audio from the Titans OC as well. It's Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone.
J. Martin Ramon.
Oh, man, we appreciate you, brother. Keep on rolling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.
Indeed. That's oh, Lord. I just sniped him. Ola, did you snipe him? Ola, you're back. Say what you were saying there at the end. I'm
Hey,
sorry.
man, I wanted to say tighten up, man.
There you go.
Tomorrow from 6 to 10 on 104.5 The Zone.
stylistically, which I would imagine is pretty good, but let's hear what the OC said today.
On Sunday night.
Yeah, well, luckily, with the guy.
On Sunday night.
Yeah, well, luckily, with the guys that we added, Foreman's got some experience in this system as his time in Atlanta carried over, obviously, from a verbiage standpoint. And so I think he acclimated pretty quickly or was able to catch back up pretty quickly. And, Adrian is the consummate professional. So having him approach this week the way he has is encouraging for everybody.
Stylistically, what are some of the things, like the traits that Peterson has that will fit into what you like to do running the football?
Yeah, certainly a decisive runner, a physical runner, so he definitely fits in with that aspect of our program here. And, he's a guy that, is going to give everything he has on every play, and I think the guys are excited to have him.
Courtesy of Teron Davenport, our buddy with the ESPN, talking about stylistically. I think both those guys fit. I mean, heck, we know that Foreman fits stylistically because that rascal's been fitting in here last year and fit in real well for 6 games just out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I think that's what I mentioned before. The physicality of AP all day is, man, he still got that part of him.
Yeah.
That won't change. I just would say he's a notch below the breakaway speed, but everything else actually looks the same, or even in some instances, he looks better in some of his cutting and changing directions. Because remember, he was more of a straight line guy when he was just dominating earlier in his career. So there's some parts of his games that are a little bit better. I think he's a better receiver, even though he's not used as a receiver today than he was then. So, all those things fit into this scheme and system as well as Foreman. And I already told you I like what I saw from him last year. I kind of talked about him kind of like as I talked about McNichols, to be honest, in the same vein. 2 different styles, but they both work in this scheme and system. And I really love the role that McNichols is in. Maybe I'll get a few more carries just trying to catch people off guard to me and not just be a pass catcher out of the backfield. I think he can bring a little bit more than that, but not a lot in being the main guy. Because I don't want it to be a read when AP and Foreman get in there. We know this is the guy that is going to replaces Henry, and they're running every time.
Right.
You don't want to get in that kind of situation, maybe halfway through the game where they say, all right, these are the keys now. We know what they're doing. Boom. Every time he comes in, they're running the football. Yeah, I think AP, I think he can go. Yeah, I think he can go the whole game. I wouldn't be shocked if he learns the system. I wouldn't be shocked if he got 15, 20 carries. I really wouldn't. I think he
not
can
with that guy. I agree with you. He's not.
Only thing I'm worried about is ball security. When you haven't been playing, haven't having contact all the time at all, and then all of a sudden you start having a lot of it, just got to make sure you secure the ball high and tight. I mean, you can slip up every now and then, and it could cost him. And Vrabel just, boy, I can't imagine him. He would just lose it. Like, all right, put Foreman there.
Yeah. I'll let you see you next week.
Yeah. We thanks, AP, for holding on or not holding on to the ball.
Let's keep this running back discussion going. Kevin in Smyrna wants to check in with a question for the Hitman. Hashtag Ask the Hitman. What's going on, Kevin?
Hey, I was just wondering.
Yes, sir.
You know that the Rams are probably going to just lay their ears back and just really come after Tannehill pretty hard. Who do you think out of these running backs is our best running back catching the ball out of the backfield? Thanks, guys.
Well, that would have to be McNichols, right? I mean, I don't think it takes. I think Mickey
even with the additions, he's still the
right. That's how they use him. I don't recall. I think Foreman could, catch screens as well. AP can too. To me, when a running back is a difference maker, is when you split him out, and he is a viable candidate to throw to.
Right.
He's just not a clear-out guy, just not a hitch guy. He's a guy that you say, we're going to get this guy in open field and throw to him. I think really McNichols is more that guy than any of those guys. And that's kind of how I view, all of them can catch. I mean, even Henry could catch. He improved on that every season he's been in the NFL. Became a threat somewhat, even when they put him out wide. Now, not down the field, but he became a threat, vertically, out there. So I would say McNichols first, but I don't think that, when you split them out there, you're trying to get the matchups where your receivers are inside and they're competing against guys who are the 2s and 3 guys at cornerback. And so you win those battles almost every time. And you got the starting corner outside guarding the running back. And unless he's Marshall Falk or something, then that's a whole different story.
Yeah, well, the Hall of Famer. Jeremy McNichols is second on a team in catches. I mean, that answers your question. Behind only A.J. Brown. So, yeah, that's the guy who catches the balls out there for sure.
He does a great job even on the screens. He's really picked up some great third downs as well as made some of those. I think in this last game, didn't he pick a long third downer and then they went for it on fourth down? Like it made it 4th and 2. It was like 3rd and 17. He got 15. I mean,
They had one call back, remember? And then they just went for it again. They had a third down, they got it, and they didn't get it. So the next, they just threw a screen pass to him, and he rambled over and ran over somebody to get it.
Yeah, he's stronger than you think, and he does a great job in blocking all season, man. He puts his nose in there, and he tries to hammer you. You better make sure your chin strap is buckled because he's bringing it.
We're going to bring it for the second hour. Coming up in hour number 2 of the show today, we have the coach, Doug Mathews, UT and Kentucky getting ready to strap it on Saturday night. So we'll talk Vols and Kentucky coming up in about 20 minutes.
Poll question, man. Who's going to get the most carries? Who you think, Mickey?
Ooh, I'll tell you next. How about that? Oh, let's hear that next. Poll question at Blaine and Mickey. Which running back gets the most carries for the Titans this weekend? Go there, answer. Call in and answer. We'll share our thoughts. Coming up, Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
The Titans make their first trip to SoFi Stadium for a Sunday night game against the LA Rams. Coverage from Los Angeles starts Sunday afternoon at 4 with Buck Rising and kickoff with Titans Radio at 7:20 on your home for Titans football. 104.5 The Zone.
view like we are.
Yes, we can see like out of the window over the top of one building. We have one sliver of sky that we can see. We comment on it.
Well, it's brutal. I mean, it's beautiful because you can see the trees changing colors. Yeah, so
All I see
awesome.
is the Budgetel across the street.
Yeah, man.
But the trees somewhere are changing colors. So this happened this week. My daughter goes to science class. There's a couple of football players on the team talking to the teacher. And they're just talking, and the teacher's like, everybody have a seat, we'll get started. And they were talking about callers to something. And she realized they were talking about the Titans postgame show. And if people have ever seen my daughter, she's just a 15-year-old female version of me. You could never deny that we are related, that I created this child. So this is a real thing that happened on Earth this week.
To describe her.
Lucas is on the phone, but Lucas needs to hear this. So my daughter realizes they're talking about the postgame show, the Titans postgame show with you and Kevin.
Show,
yes.
Dice.
We have the most, oh my gosh, we have a criminal amount of fun.
Uh-huh.
So she said, and they were talking about this caller and that caller, and she goes, oh, I remember that guy. That guy was funny. And they looked at her like, you know about the Titans postgame show. And she goes, that's my dad. And they said, the caller? And she goes, no, on the show. And one of those guys, dead serious, looks at my daughter and goes, your dad is Blaine Bishop?
So I got a daughter I don't know about?
I said, no, it's Kevin Dyson.
He said, I looked at him and said, you want to ask that again? She said, I love Blaine. But no, that's
not my dad. That's my uncle. That's my uncle, Blaine Bishop.
He said he was dead serious. And then he started doing the inventory, and he's like, oh, Mickey. Yeah, she's like, yeah, Mickey, you're right.
It could be Dyson, right?
Said, do you know who I am?
Oh, he probably said, oh, that makes sense then now that I'm thinking about it and looking at you.
Yeah. Well, now that I think about it, this does it. Okay, I get it now. Yeah, she couldn't wait to tell me that when she got home from school. I was saving that to uncork on you guys.
Yeah, you definitely uncorked that on me, man. You got leg swipe right there, man. That might have been worse than getting run over by the king or something. Hey, speaking of that, we just watched a video of who was it? Jill Jelnick, yeah.
Jill Jelnick and Jim Wyatt, both
Jim
with
Wyatt,
yeah. So hit Twitter because there's videos of Adrian Peterson. He's not in sweatpants today. He's in football gear. Let's go to our resident film analyst, director of content, and adductus longus expert, Blaine Bishop. So what all did you see with AP or AD?
Now, this is all these are individual drills, so it's not like they're going hard or anything like that. So this is all I could go from. But I tell you one thing, if I see a 36-year-old guy running back looking like how he looking, boy, my juice is getting revving. Like, I need to pick my game up, man. I'm 29, and this guy looks like he can run for days. I felt sorry for some of the guys that were actually simulating tackling, because you could see him bend down and, like, hold back a little bit, like, yeah, and they were like, oh, no, we're moving. Yep. They didn't want no part. And I tell you, he still runs violent. I'm telling you that. That was not from the video. That was from watching him last year in Detroit. But he looks loose. He looks powerful. He was kind of going through some protection scheme things. But I like everything that I've seen so far. Nothing has got me to change my mind about what I saw from his film last year in Detroit. So, yeah. And to Boclair's point, as long as he understands the scheme and system, I think he'll be the dude.
Yeah.
In number 8. And that's going to look crazy in 8. Ooh, man. Yeah, David, he is a violent runner.
And what Blaine's talking about, there are some drills where they have defenders who are just sort of setting the edge or whatever to show him go this way, and this simulates it. And you can tell he's like, I'm going to get a little bit of contact every time.
Yeah. Well, he like contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, he like contact. And, yeah, this is going to be interesting, man. I'm really liking how this is shaping up. It reminds me as a player because you love challenges. You live for them. What they say I can't do, what they say our team can't do. Man, they going to raise something out of this team. I think they don't even know where it's going to go. They have no idea. So, man, this is going to be a good one. They may shock some people here on this Sunday night.
Well,
I like it.
I'm jacked. I'm jacked.
I already know I like Foreman. He may not even play at all, but I like AP, and then I know what Foreman can do, and I know the role McNichols is in. So we're good. I think we're good to go. It takes 2.5 people to replace the King, but those 2.5, they're gonna do all right. We're fine. Pump the brakes. No nerves here. We're fine. I keep telling them. McNair, Super Bowl year, didn't play the first 5 games. Neil O'Donnell came in 4-1. No panic, nowhere.
Oh, the year, and we got breaking news we'll get to. The year the Dolphins went undefeated, the only time that's ever happened, they played the whole season with the backup quarterback, Earl Morrall.
Oh.
Played the whole season with the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Bob Greasy came back for the playoffs.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think of my younger years. Who did David Woodley play for?
He played for the Dolphins.
I know, but I'm talking about, I thought he didn't start at the beginning of the season, did he?
Well, no, that was Woodstock. That was David Woodley and Don Strock, who both started.
Strock, right. They kept going back.
Who started, in 82 before Marino got there.
That was when Zonka was there?
He was gone by then.
Who was that running back?
Tony Nathan, maybe?
Oh, Tony Nathan. Yeah, 22.
Lucas, what do we got?
We got some breaking news?
Oh, yeah, this is big news. Oh, he's playing the sound.
Breaking Vols news on 104.5 The Zone.
Vols sound. Wow, this is from Austin Price of VolQuest. Breaking. The internal investigation into Tennessee's football program is over. He put over in all caps with an exclamation mark. Then he goes on to say this. The Vols will not, in OT in all caps, impose a bowl ban. Brent Hubbs and I discussed here. So not imposing a bowl ban. The investigation is over. Seems like this thing has been going on forever.
Perfect timing. Right before we have Dougie Fresh on, the coach, Doug Mathews at 2:20.
Yeah, we're about to get a bunch of information from Snoop Doggy Doug Mathews about this. This is, and I'm just cracking this open. This is, Lucas, have you had a chance to look at it at all?
I'm struggling to load it. I have that subscription, but it's not loading on my phone right now. But so far, all I know is what you just said.
After this is, again, per VolQuest, we are all in this together. We're all seeing this at the same time. After nearly a year of work and right at $1 million in expenses, VolQuest has learned that Tennessee's investigation into NCAA violations under former head coach Jeremy Pruitt has ended as a result of the investigation's findings, and based on the belief of protecting innocent current Vol players, Tennessee is not going to self-impose a season or a postseason bowl ban. That is clearly the headline here.
But what are they getting by the NCAA? That's what they are not doing.
That's what we don't know.
It does say they will self-impose other penalties still on the same VolQuest report based on the nature of the violations. The specifics of those penalties are not clear. Expect for them to be appropriate to the violations.
Okay, that really helped us out a lot.
So maybe within the scope of recruiting is what he's indicating, as far as the self-imposed penalties that could come.
Not on the road recruiting or to less scholarships available.
Yeah, he includes likely a reduction in scholarships over a period of time, a reduction in official visits, and possibly recruiting travel restrictions and maybe others.
Then here's the next sentence, and Luca's doing a good job picking up after me. Here you go. Tennessee hopes that the sweeping nature of their self-imposed penalties will serve to show just how seriously they have taken their own investigation and its findings. They go on to say it is important to note that the NCAA has not made a final ruling yet on Tennessee's case.
Oh, okay.
So this is Tennessee saying, we're not banning ourselves from a bowl. We're going to do other stuff, but we're not going to penalize the dudes who are here. There's so many people that are gone. These dudes are new. We're going to play in a bowl. So,
well, this comes
but NCAA can come back and say no can do, bro.
Yeah, they could this year.
This comes pretty shortly after Oklahoma State, cooperating with an NCAA investigation all the way, just got a postseason ban for basketball.
Right,
the 2021-22 season.
Oh, honestly, I think it's better just to stand out in your front yard and say, get out of here, we hate you, than it is to everybody who cooperates gets screwed.
Oklahoma State did everything that they were asked to do as far as cooperation, and still they're not playing in the NCAA
And by the way,
tournament.
the UT has two until now.
Right.
Because they did their own investigation. They brought it all to light and sent it to the NCAA. And so they're doing down the same road. And then all of a sudden they're putting a pump the brakes on. We're not banning ourselves from going to a bowl
and Austin Price references it here. It says the NCAA's postseason ban of the Oklahoma State program was the result of a case that was 5 years old.
Oh, my God.
You know how many Oklahoma State players have come and gone since
that's horrible.
that started. I mean, Cade Cunningham came and then left us the number 1 pick in the draft.
Oh, man, I think Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders are gone, too.
Yeah, maybe they're in some kind of trouble. If Thurman is ineligible.
Marcus Smart was coming and going by then.
So a year-long investigative process wrapped up. The NCAA, this is, again, all per VolQuest if you're just getting in the car. This is per Brent Hubbs and Austin Price, as far as best I can tell. Bottom line, it says Tennessee has wrapped up a year-long investigative process where the NCAA was included from day one. The university is moving forward with some undisclosed, self-imposed penalties that they are not allowed to comment on, but a bowl ban is not one of them. Postseason is still on the table for Josh Heupel's 2021 Vols. Per Tennessee's findings, the NCAA has not ruled yet, but it sounds like it could be 5 years if it's like Oklahoma State.
Didn't feel that way. Did Oklahoma State come out with their internal investigation saying within the first year that what their imposed were, imposed?
I'm not familiar with any self-imposed sanctions they might have made.
Yeah, I'm not either. So I don't know. But it's a fluid situation still in that the NCAA has to now impose what they think should happen.
Yep.
So this all could actually change, correct?
Oh, absolutely, it could. They could come in and say, how many scholarships are you going to say 3? That's how 7 get you.
Right.
You were going
to supposed to lowball it because this is really still negotiation.
Yeah, sure. Yes. So you were going to take away 10 home visits. How about we're going to take away 15? Oh, how about 16? Yeah, they could come in and do anything at this point. But that's Tennessee saying, hey, we're not doing it. Here's what we're going to do. Well, we can't tell you, but we're going to do stuff. Just know that stuff's coming. We're not telling you today. But no bowl bid. No bowl ban. Sorry, there may be a bowl bid, but no bowl ban.
How long has it been, Lucas?
How long has it been for the investigation?
Yeah.
I mean, the first time an inkling of information came out that there would be some type of investigation was going into the regular season finale last season, the A&M game, because suddenly Eric Gray and Brian Maurer aren't able to be with the team on game day. So you're coming up on a year where things really started to come out right at the end of November. So I'd say about 11 months in total. Now, the investigation officially starting has probably been closer to 8 or so months.
There you go. We'll retweet that from the Blaine and Mickey account. We'll retweet the tweet from Austin Price, and you can check that out. But Doug Mathews, just crazy timing. Doug Mathews, Tennessee insider, joins us next. We'll get all the info. It's Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Buck Rising loves him some Urban Meyer.
I think that almost daily we should have an Urban Meyer update just so that we can find some comedy. Because this is an outright disaster.
The next time Herb steps in it, Buck will be waiting.
I'm begging you. I dare you.
The Buck Rising Show. Tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
So we finally got part of the investigation is over. They have said, among other things, they will have some internal discipline that will be recruiting related, with could be scholarship reduction or visit reduction, that kind of things. They're not saying, but they did say this, Coach, they will not self-impose a bowl ban for this current team.
Not a surprise. Not a surprise the longer this thing went. I think originally, going way back before the start of the season, before summer even got here, I think Tennessee certainly was looking at several different things. But this whole investigation, they've made it very plain. They being Donde Plowman, who is the chancellor who is running this thing, not the athletic director, it's the chancellor of the university. Has made it very plain that she was keeping not only the Southeastern Conference offices, but also the NCAA involved step by step. So they've kind of been building the report up. I'm sure, putting it all together. I don't think it's probably a big surprise. Now we'll see what the NCAA does. I would be willing to bet that the Southeastern Conference probably will go along with this, whatever it all entails. Don't know if there are going to be scholarship reductions. If there are, Tennessee can handle that pretty well because they're already 11, 12, 13 under their 85 anyway. But, again, not a big surprise. And if the NCAA comes back in and imposes a bowl ban, first off, Tennessee's got to get 6 wins before they're going to be going to a bowl. But, I think they'll probably accept that. Well, I'm sure they'll have to accept it. They won't have a choice.
Is there any timeline that you've heard, because the Tennessee timeline obviously finishes today? As you said, they've been in lockstep with the SEC, so the thinking is the SEC has said, okay, along the way, yes, that's fine, okay. Is there any thought process of when the NCAA might step back in and say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we say about this?
No, really not. I think you can just look at some of the other investigations, primarily the basketball investigations that have been going on for several years now. Now, there's a pretty big difference, though, in the fact that those in Oklahoma State, they just settled that deal. Those were involved the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That's a little bit more important than just an NCAA investigation. I would suspect that if I don't think that the NCAA will do it, don't even know if they'll be meeting before the bowl games get here. I would suspect something will probably happen next spring. Might not. They may already have had a pretty good agreement on that. You can almost guarantee that the discussions that were going on between the chancellor's office, the SEC, and the NCAA, if they were involved in all this, they probably have a pretty good idea what the NCAA will accept and what they won't. Maybe, and again, I'm just saying maybe because it kind of makes sense. You shoot low, and then they say, well, we got to do something, so we're going to do this. Don't think it's going to be very punitive at all. And I think a lot of it's because that the chancellor has really handled this thing really well. There's not a single coach, not a single administrator that had any was even associated with the football program. New chancellor, new athletic director, new head football coach, new staff. So I think all of that kind of plays into it.
Coach Doug Mathews, our guest, same time, same channel, right here every week. Tennessee Highway Safety Office makes it happen. If you put down some drinks, put down your keys. Remember, fans don't let fans drive drunk. Brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, just like this visit with Coach Doug Mathews.
Yeah, Coach, I guess just to close it up in a nutshell with the investigation, at least from Tennessee's point of view, if you did this investigation with every school in the country that's Power 5, would it seem that you could find all these things that they're, supposedly having issues with as far as scholarships and reductions? I think if you meddle in anybody's program, I think you could find something if you want to. It seems like this is just kind of minor after looking at the whole big picture.
Well, you probably could. Now, not many are, I'm going to use the word dumb enough, sloppy enough, whatever, to do what allegedly, at least, what Coach Pruitt did. Most of them handled it a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. I think part of this has to do with the fact, and I think the NCAA will probably look at this also. with name, image, likeness now that is part of college football, this would probably have fit under that last year. So it's just a matter, I really think, Blaine, of just does the NCAA want to make a point here? My guess is they probably don't. The NCAA is, as soon as we get into January, February, March, it's going to be a completely different looking organization anyway. They might, and I think the reason that Tennessee's coming out with this now, they've known what they were going to do, but I think they've waited now because now it gets out. Remember, National Signing Day is right around December the 20th. So now they can go to these prospects and say, hey, this is what we have decided. The NCAA probably will not say anything until after National Signing Day. So I think this is strategically, this is when they decided to announce it. Two things, recruiting and then also the transfer portal players that may or may not be thinking about leaving, which I don't think Tennessee's going to have many go at all that is actually playing much. But so I think all that kind of plays in. They have known pretty much where they're heading, but I think they kind of put it off until November got here for those two reasons.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the transfer portal, naturally Harrison Bailey is in there, and it was kind of interesting to hear Heupel say, yeah, we wish him well, great kid, but didn't like the timing of it all. How do you view those quotes?
Well, I don't know exactly why he left when he left. I don't think there was much of a chance of him playing.
Right.
And if he did play, he could play. There's only 4 games left in the season. That's how many games you can play in all 4 of those and still be able to redshirt wherever he decided to leave. The writing was on the wall on that. I'm sure Coach Heupel had visited with Harrison. I'm sure in all likelihood he was not going to play there much at all. He's not the type of quarterback, the style of quarterback that Coach Heupel wants, that his system, could you play with him in that system? Yes, but that's not the optimal quarterback. And he knew that. Some people are a little displeased, some fans, that he left early. I don't think it's a big deal one way or the other. And more importantly, it didn't seem like Coach Heupel was all too shot in the rear end about it. I think he knew it. They probably decided this is when he's going to go. Won't hurt Tennessee. He would have. If we get down to 3 quarterbacks, they'll have to play a walk-on in there probably, but hopefully that won't happen.
Well, with the coach, Doug Mathews, and I guess now they had a bye week. Where is the health of the team, especially at offensive line in the trenches, as you have to have in the SEC, as well as running back?
Really, really good, Blaine. This is as healthy going into this game, unless something happens in practice today or tomorrow. This team will go into this Kentucky game the healthiest they've been since the start of the season. There are 5 offensive linemen that started and have played pretty darn well together. They're all back and they're all healthy. In that period of time, they were able to get some pretty good playing time for a couple of backups. Both Evans and Small are back healthy. Evans has got a little ankle that tweaks him every now and then. Most anybody that's ever played the game at any positions had that, and you hit it wrong and it'll flare up for you, maybe a play or two, and then you go back in. But no, they're as healthy as they can be. They are, they're in good shape from a health standpoint. Everybody, little stiff neck or something maybe, but they'll go to Kentucky. They couldn't ask to be any more healthy they are, and they're rested. They've done a good job of getting them rested. So this should be a Tennessee team that's playing well. I expect them to play well. They were playing well the last few ball games. If they can go into this game and keep penalties under control, and if they will control the takeaways and turnovers. Kentucky's not a team that takes the ball away. They only have 4 turnovers for the takeaways, for the whole year. And Kentucky will, their quarterback Levis he'll throw the ball to you every now and then. So I think they'll have a great game plan. They're back healthy. I expect them to go to Kentucky and really play well. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's going to be my call my shot this week. That's going to be one of them anyway. But the way Hendon Hooker has been playing, I just don't see anybody stopping this fast break offense. And then, Kentucky's offense is not conducive to trying to catch up if they get behind. But, man, reason why I bring up Hendon Hooker, is there a possibility, and I mean possibility, that he goes to the NFL after this season? If he continues this pace, and the only reason why I say that is it's a weak NFL quarterback draft. And he's going to have numbers.
That might be a reason. He does have another year.
Mm-hmm.
He has, though, graduated. He does have another year's eligibility. My guess is the way that he's come along, I think, and he knows that this team's going to bring back a lot of players on offense and hopefully add some transfer portal guys also. He's got almost everybody back on offense, just a couple of guys that unless they decide to leave, that everybody can come back almost. But, the Blaine thing that's really impressed me about this young man, Hooker, but it's also impressed me about this staff, the way that we've seen him progress almost every single ball game. Very decisive. If he decides to run, boom, he runs. Where he's going to throw the ball, boom, he throws the football. Takes very few sacks. Doesn't turn the ball over. Had a little problem with that early. Has not done that. Had the one interception against Alabama. But he has really turned into a really good football player. Is he a great quarterback? No. Is he a really good one? No, yes. And seemingly he has been able to get on the same wavelength with Coach Heupel in running this hurry-up offense. They've almost ran this hurry-up offense. And when I say hurry up, I mean they try to get that ball snap with like 32, 33 seconds still left on the clock. And he is doing an excellent job of that. That is much more difficult than it looks like because you got to make sure everybody's set. You got to make sure you got 7 guys up on the line, and then you got to get the ball snapped also. And I think he's just improved almost every single ball game. The thing about Hooker was coming in, he had 15 starts at Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. He played in like 25, 26 games over there, but he had 15 starts. And, anytime you're out there playing 45, 50, 60 plays at a quarterback position, you're going to get better. And I think this offense just suits him perfectly.
Wrong with the coach, Doug Mathews.
Coach, how big was this past week for recruiting? I know that's something you had talked about the week before. We asked you, what does a bye week consist of? And you said, well, one of the things for assistant coaches is if you can get out and recruit, you are going to recruit. How did the Vols fare in that regard last week?
Well, assistant head coach, Coach Heupel, they practiced 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He was in Memphis all day, in the Memphis area all day Thursday. He was in Nashville in the Middle Tennessee area all day Friday. Ended up going to a couple of games, both Memphis and in Nashville. I guess he didn't go in Memphis because he's there Thursday night. But saw a lot of players, and more so now, they're pretty well set on. They got the 14 commitments. They're not really, committing anybody in the 2022 class now. They're looking transfer portal guys, and then for the future, 23, 24. Now that might have changed with the fact that they are not going to self-impose any scholarship reductions. I will say this though, just from talking to them up there, they are aware that they could get some scholarships deducted. So they're probably going to hold back a little bit on that. But they got the 14 commitments. They feel like they're really solid there. They got the quarterback. He got the quarterback he wants out of Indiana. With the 7 additional players that you can sign if you have 7 transfer guys transfer out, you can bring 7 in as long as you stay under that 85. And without any reductions from the NCAA, Tennessee will have plenty enough room to sign up to 32 potential players that they could sign.
Blaine and Mickey talking to Coach Doug Mathews. Coach, I wanted to ask you about one guy from Kentucky. They obviously have some talented players. Stoops has done a good job up there recruiting. But the running back, Rodriguez, he's second in the SEC in rushing, but it's kind of like he's fallen off a cliff the last couple of weeks. I know he's had some fumble issues this week, but in what I could find yesterday, practice report yesterday, maybe things are kind of rounding back into shape for him. But it's really strange. He's number 2 in the league, and it kind of disappeared for a little while.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, though. He has turned the ball over lately. And, there's really old running back and then an old running back coach. If you carry the ball correctly, there's really not ever a reason to fumble the ball once you get it in your hands, especially a running back. And now occasionally you'll get stripped, but if you're protecting that ball the way it should be, you shouldn't lay the ball on the ground much. He has done that, and this offense, they got the smoke kid that's either behind him or right with him. In this offense, and know how Coach Stoops feels. If you lay the ball on the ground, you're not going to be in there, because this Kentucky team has won because they play solid defense. They're not great defensively, but they're really solid, really physical up front, physical running game, good enough at quarterback. This quarterback's not any like the last 3 or 4 Tennessee's played that's going to pull the ball down and run and beat you. Levis is not that type of player.
Right.
And I think that bodes well for Tennessee, because they're not going to have somebody either spying for him like they did with Corral and Jones and the Alabama kid, Young. This isn't that type of quarterback. He's a good quarterback, solid, pretty good thrower, doesn't have a great arm. I'm sure part of the game plan will be force him, if he's on a hash, to throw it to the outside part of the field away from him, because he doesn't have that strong arm. But because of that, they got to get that running game going, and they can't lay the ball on the ground. And I think the thing with Rodriguez is the last couple of ball games he's lost, I think, 3 fumbles, but he's also had 2 or 3 more where he laid it on the ground. So I think it's more of that than anything else.
Coach Doug Mathews, our guest, Tennessee Highway Safety Office, making this visit happen every week.
Well, Coach, I guess staying on the Kentucky note, what does a win over Kentucky mean to the fan base today? I know and you can also compare it to what it meant in the past.
Well, I've talked all year about building a program. This first year, is it important? Yes, it's important, but it's not important wins or losses. It really isn't. You'd like to win as many as you could, but what's more important is making sure that you get that foundation started, and that's one thing I think Coach Heupel's done so very well of. I talked a bit on the. Excuse me, I had something beeping in there. I talked a good bit on Big Orange Sunday about the fact that if you've watched this team play, what type of offense Coach Heupel wants to run. We all know that now. If you've watched any at all, we know what type of defense he wants to run, and we know what his kicking is. Those things are all in place. The only question, and it can't be answered until we get into that season, is if he can recruit at a high level, then he'll have a program that I think all Tennessee fans can be happy with. If he can't, then then we're going to have some problems. But as far as Kentucky goes, here's the way the East has always been since we've been in division play in 1992. Tennessee, South Carolina, Missouri, who they've already beat, Vanderbilt, who they have to beat, but Vanderbilt's not very good right now, and Kentucky. Those 4 teams, that's where Tennessee needs to really win games. Then you got Florida and you got Georgia, and Tennessee plays Alabama, but Florida and Georgia are the other 2. So what a win would be now. They've already beaten South Carolina. They've already beaten Missouri. Alabama, they play at the end of the year. If they can get this Kentucky game, then it puts them in third place in the SEC East. Now, that's not where Tennessee wants to be or where the fans want to be, but they haven't been there in quite a while. That shows progress. It's going to be extremely difficult to beat Georgia, but, home game, they end with 3 home games. Never know. But I think most fans, though, guys, have seen enough of this team to know that Coach Heupel's got them playing and his staff at a really high level. And when I say a high level, I'm talking about as high level as they can play at. They're not as talented as some teams, but they played very well, and they need to end this thing up if they can get Kentucky. And Kentucky is probably a little bit better team right now overall. But Tennessee's going to give them some problems because that fast-paced offense is going to give Kentucky some problems, believe me.
Coach, good stuff. People can keep getting this Coach Mathews fixed. Like you said, football Saturday, Big Orange Sunday right here on the Zone and the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, bringing you on with us every week. Coach, thanks, and look forward to talking to you about this Kentucky Vols game next week.
Same here. Good talking to you all. We'll talk next Thursday.
Yes, sir. Always great catching up with the coach. When we come back, again, some breaking news out of Tennessee. Their investigation is done. They will not self-impose a bowl ban. The VolQuest guys with the story, Austin Price, Brent Hubbs, we'll hear a little bit from those guys next. There's something out. They've put out some audio. We'll hear from them on this investigation. Before we wrap it up, Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
After an off week, the Vols are back on the road in Lexington against the Kentucky Wildcats. Coverage starts Saturday at 3 with kickoff at 6 on Nashville's home for the Vols. 104.5 The Zone.
This is Blaine.
self-impose other penalties, but they will not self-impose a bowl ban. So this game against Kentucky even has more significance as they try to get to 6 wins or higher and try to secure a certain seed within the conference to get an even better bowl bid. Again, VolQuest breaking this news, and I think Lucas has some of the audio from this. Brent Hubbs going a little bit deeper inside the news about the University of Tennessee today.
Well, I think, first of all, the bowl ban's not a huge surprise.
No.
If Tennessee gets to 6 wins, they're going to go to a bowl game, and that's what should happen for this group of kids. You do not pull the rug out from under them in November or any point during the season. We have talked about that. I think Tennessee is very much of the mindset this group of kids who are on this field and in this program now are not guilty parties in what has taken place in the previous program with Jeremy Pruitt, and they don't deserve to be punished. So Tennessee is not going to self-impose a bowl ban. The bigger story for me, Austin, is that Michael Glazer's group is done with the investigative process, and Tennessee's done with that. They've worked hand in hand. Now, the Glazer group will remain on retainer. They'll still do some work for Tennessee to help them navigate through the NCAA waters. But in terms of going out and finding people to talk to, continuing the interviews for the $1 million that they have billed Tennessee for the last year, those days are over as this investigation is over from that standpoint of it.
All right, so
So that's Brent Hubbs with a synopsis. Basically, here's a little bit more from the article. It says the university will self-impose other penalties based on the nature of the violations. While the specifics of those penalties aren't clear, expect for them to be appropriate to the violations. Looking at previous case precedents involving recruiting where Tennessee violations occurred, those self-imposed penalties are expected to fall within the scope of recruiting itself. They will likely include a reduction in scholarships over a period of time, a reduction in official visits, and possibly recruiting travel restrictions, it says, and maybe others. It says Tennessee hopes that the sweeping nature of their self-imposed penalties will serve to show just how seriously they have taken their own investigation and its findings. And Blaine, as you pointed out earlier, we were talking to Doug Mathews, and even as we learned about this right before he got on, this is Tennessee saying, this is our findings, this is what we're going to do. The NCAA has not stepped in yet. They have not said, this is good, we want more. Well, they'll never say they want less. That hasn't happened yet. This is Tennessee saying, as far as we're concerned, this deal's wrapped up.
Yeah, I pretty much feel like they escaped. But one thing I disagree with, Hubs, maybe you guys can explain to me, especially, Luke has been a UT guy, how does it not affect the current players? Because those players are all involved in the action. This is not like 5 years, 3 years later. Those are all the players that were actually there, or except for the ones that it transferred. But you can't just say that those parts, we haven't heard any details. We don't even know if any of those guys are implicated. I mean, we want to assume that they are, but everybody else was there too as well. So how do you view that? I mean, what do you take from that?
I mean, the only players that we know were implicated because they were held out of that A&M game from the end of last season were Brian Maurer and Eric Gray. Maurer's in the portal, Gray's over at Oklahoma. Obviously, there was a big exodus of outgoing players, but you're right. I mean, we don't know exactly who was involved in what with everything, all the violations committed by everybody on Tennessee.
So you're saying you don't want to punish the current players, where these are the people that were actually part of this whole investigation with Pruitt, under Pruitt. Let's just say that, besides the new recruits that came in, who he actually recruited. Pruitt did. So I just, that's the part was interesting when they said that. It was like, well, these guys are all part of it pretty much, besides the guys that left, which was, about 10, 12 guys?
Yeah, about that. It was a big number. Yeah, a lot of players transferred out. I think it probably was even more than that.
Oh, maybe it was 20 guys.
But I think when the punishments come down, it's probably more about punishing the program, right, than it is about the players. And that comes through scholarship reductions and things over a span of time, not taking away a bowl game from players that aren't necessarily the ones being targeted when being punished by the NCAA or anybody else.
Yeah. The issue I have with the NCAA is giving a punishment 5 years down the road, like we're talking about with Oklahoma State, and those guys weren't even there. In this situation, that is not the case.
Yeah.
This is literally the next year. So, that's kind of unbiased view. I want, Tennessee to do great and get no punishment, but that's kind of how I view what he just said.
And when you take away a scholarship, that means you're punishing a kid who literally had nothing to do with it. He's in high school right now, and then that dude doesn't get a scholarship. Yeah. So I've always thought maybe there's a better way to do this than to take scholarships away from kids. You're taking opportunities away when you do that.
Well, since the NCAA won't exist, why don't they just fine them?